Morning, all. All right, so first off, there's no Chicago Blackhawks news on the board. I'm wearing my brand new Chicago Blackhawks Chris Chelios jersey that I got through Sports K. Got here surprisingly fast, considering it's coming from the States. Got here very quickly, and yeah, I like this one. Now I had one like this, but it was one of the older CCMs. The CCM, I think Masca is what people refer to them as, the CCM Mascas. This one though, new. Very nice. At some point in time, I'll do a video where I compare the one I had to this one. The lettering's much crisper, but it's interesting because there were people yesterday that thought I was suggesting the Hawks should change their logo. I'm still buying this hat I bought like less than 6 months ago, so I'm not one of the people who would be saying Chicago should change their logo. I know when I used to play floor hockey decades back, it was the Blackhawks jersey with which I seemed to score the most when I played floor hockey. So that was my good luck jersey, was Chicago. So, yeah. Anyways, there you go. The reason why I'm wearing a Chris Chelios today. I can't even tie Chris Chelios to anything, I guess, other than Montreal. But we're going to talk about Florida to start off. Keith Yandle. He's being bought out. So, remember last season when there were rumors that Joel Quenneville wanted to make him a healthy scratch, and there were people that were, they're not going to scratch him. Then there was talk all during the season about his game streak and how that might get threatened at some point. Well, he's now going to be free to sign somewhere else. I would think somebody picks him up. I do. What it does is it saves Florida $4 million in cap this season. It only saves them $900,000 next season. And then they get $1.2 million in dead cap for 2 years after that. So there are some surprising moves being made by general managers where they're making moves that will, like in terms of buyouts, that will just save the money now. They're not worried about later, just save money now, and then we'll figure that out later. So we saw that with Bill Guerin and the twin buyouts that he did with Suter and Parisi, and now we're seeing that with Yandle as well. So go ahead and in the comment section, let me know which team's going to pick up Yandle. Now, in doing this, Florida also has a couple of signings they've got done. Gustav Forsling signs 3 years at $2.66 million per season. So Forsling was a pickup on waivers. Apparently Florida liked him. He fit in really well in Florida. It's one of those things where a player finds his place, where he bounced around the league a little bit, and then you find your spot, and you're like, all right, I'm staying here. Speaking of guys who bounced around and are staying put, apparently Anthony Duclair has also got a 3-year extension coming his way. So, yeah, they're keeping Duclair as well. So, yeah, Florida spending some money to get out from under Yandle's contract, and also spending some money to make sure that Forsling and Duclair stick around. Solid moves all around. I think Florida is going to be pretty good next year. So the Larson talk has now changed. That Adam Larson, there may very well be a contract agreement in place that they will then get signed and done after the expansion draft. So for Oiler fans yesterday that were kind of panicky, nothing to worry about. Apparently the Larson contract will be dealt with after. So they would be able to protect Nurse, Keith, and of course protect Nurse, Keith, and Bear. Ethan Bear would get protected. Who was in there? And then Larson, they wouldn't worry about until after. So, of course, there is a risk to that. And I've explained this before. There's a risk to not signing a guy and just saying, well, we'll deal with that after. Is that for 3 days, Ron Francis can phone these players and go, so if you come play for me, here's what I've got to offer you. So there's definitely some risk in not protecting and not trying to sign guys or waiting to sign those contracts until after the expansion draft. So we'll see how many instances there are, because again, Seattle has to take 20 guys that have contracts beyond this season, meaning he can take 10 different guys who don't have contracts in place if he so chooses. So we'll see what happens there. Steven Stamkos was not asked to waive his no movement clause by the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not sure why that was reported last night, but I thought, no, we're going to talk about that in the morning, because I don't see why they would ask him to waive that. Because it's not like they want to lose Stamkos anyways, right? It's not like, oh, Seattle took Stamkos, yay. I don't see anybody saying that anywhere other than Seattle fans. And moving on from that, the Shea Weber scenario is potentially going to end up in a battle. So Shea Weber's contract was signed by the Philadelphia Flyers. They signed him to a contract that they felt would be a poison pill large enough that Nashville wouldn't want it. And I believe it was Paul Holmgren signed that deal, and really wanted Weber, and believed that they were going to get him. And then Nashville matched the contract. It is an ugly contract. It is a 14-year behemoth which still has 5 years left in it. Now, if reports are that Weber's not going to play again. The NHL may view this as cap circumvention, and I know people are going to get mad, but here's the thing. The NHL hated these long-term deals. Vancouver's got the cap recapture penalty. If he retires, there's a cap recapture that hits Nashville hard. And so if he ends up on the LTIR, which for years, a lot of fans, myself included, kind of expected he would at some point. Your body breaks down. Well, you can't retire. There are a lot of players that would just flat out retire, but because of their contract situation, they don't. They just end up on LTIR, and their contract just fades away. It either gets dealt to a team that's willing to take on that dead cap money, or you just put them on LTIR and you just forget about it for years. There are plenty of instances of this, but because of Weber's contract, the way it's structured, his actual salary for this upcoming season is $6 million. A lot of money. But the following seasons, it dives. $3 million, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million. So when you look at his cap hit, it's $7.8 million. But it was seen as cap circumvention when it was signed, though the NHL had no rules against it until the following CBA. And it was $14 million in salary he was making from 2012-2013 through until 2015-2016. You add those $1 million a year at the end to bring the cap hit down. NHL didn't like that. And the NHL's constantly, not necessarily constantly, it's the wrong terminology, but they are seemingly always on the lookout for GMs trying to get around cap hit by having those backdiving contracts, having years that are dramatically different from others. And that's why they've made it so that you have to even out the contracts, cap hit, salary situation, all that. You're supposed to even it out a bit. That wasn't a thing when Weber signed that contract. So the NHL and the NHLPA may have some discussions about Weber going on the LTIR for the rest of that contract. Because again, he would be walking away from actual salary of $12 million over the next 5 years. He's already made a ton of money. So it is the question that we all had when he signed that deal. I remember talking to plenty of people when these long-term deals were being signed. And we all kind of agreed on the same thing. Well, they're not going to play out the rest of their career. They've signed those extra years at the end of $1 million each, and then they'll just retire before those years hit. And you get the cap benefit and all of that other wonderful stuff. And you pay him out the big money, but the cap hit's still low. So, again, that's why the Luongo cap recapture penalty is there for Vancouver. They did sign that contract. It was, and again, at the time it was signed, it was clear that his cap hit was really low, comparatively speaking, with what it should have been. And you look at Luongo's contract, that was backdiving as well. So, yeah, the NHL will definitely look a little bit harder at this than they would at other contracts. And so we'll see where this ends up. Because, again, when a guy signs a contract that's 13 or 14 years, your initial reaction isn't, wow, he's going to play the next 14 years there. Your reaction is, he might play 8 or 9 or 10 of those years. He's not going to play the 14 seasons. So, yeah, that Paul Holmgren contract, it's in the news yet again. So, this is likely to end up in some kind of situation. But again, NHL doctors will look, and if they go, yeah, no, his foot and his ankle are kind of messed up, and he's not going to be able to play again. Yeah, and what I've seen is he likely never plays again. Like same as Chris Pronger, Marian Hossa, Henrik Zetterberg. Just that's it. That's done. So we will report on this as things change or as other news comes out. Right, regarding Shea Weber. Very touching ceremony in remembrance of Matiss Kivlenieks today. Elvis Merzlikins, who has been very public-facing in all of this, has stated that Matiss died a hero. So what he's saying is if Matiss had stayed where he was, had just sat where he was, he doesn't get struck in the chest, and he's still alive today. But that by doing what he did, to dive in front of the blast that killed him, basically, It saved Merzlikins, his pregnant wife, and others. And they're saying like up to 50 people. And the doctors as well at the time said he was a hero. And that his Elvis's wife said he made one final block. And he also said that he will have his son when he's born will be given the name Matiss as his middle name in honor of his teammates. So the Kivlenieks situation, I look at this and I say that's an uplifting story that absolutely could have just sat there. And for a lot of us, we would sort of freeze and not know what to do. And he jumps into action and sacrificed himself in order to protect other people. So it's a tragic situation. It may very well galvanize members of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Absolutely, I could see Elvis having a huge season this year. He's going, if he takes those emotions, he channels that into his playing, he could have a great year. So, again, touching ceremony, and all the best to his family and friends, and of course to Elvis. Fantastic speech. Great that he shared that with everybody. There's no way to really segue out into other things, but I'll do my best here. The Leafs are allowing Zach Hyman's agent to discuss contract with other teams. So Zach Hyman's able to do that with others. So again, right now, he can't because he's under contract. But the Leafs, who have basically at this point realized they're not going to be able to keep Zach Hyman, are allowing his agent to talk to other teams. I would think other teams would be talking to him and saying, after expansion, we're willing to do this and this. I really think it would be interesting to see if Seattle was one of those teams making the phone calls, right? Because he's a UFA. So the thing, too, is Ron Francis doesn't need to make a trade. All he needs to do is sit down and go, all right, so here's what we're willing to do. And Zach Hyman says, sounds fine. So here's how it could work, right? There's a couple ways this could work with Seattle in it. Is that Seattle gets him in a trade for future considerations. Except in this case, future considerations would mean something where Toronto would say, okay, we were going to want this and this back. And so they make that deal under that agreement. But then, the Leafs would lose a different player in the expansion draft. Or it's possible the Leafs just let him go in expansion, I guess. But again, they're going to look for a sign and trade. They're going to look for a team to sign him to a contract, and then Toronto trades his rights to that team to finish off that signing and all that. So they reach a handshake agreement. Toronto makes the deal, and then you put pen to paper, or you do the digital signature. I would think now. I don't think pen to paper. Well, pen to paper is still a thing. Kozanosh did that for San Jose, or maybe it's just a blank piece of paper. Anyways, you just never know these days. But Zach Hyman is basically done with Toronto. We'll see whether or not there's a deal that gets made before. And again, Seattle's going to be in the midst of almost all of this until the expansion draft. And rightfully so. We are sitting currently less than a week away from the expansion draft. So fingers crossed on that one. Michael McLeod signs a 2-year extension with the New Jersey Devils. It has a $975,000 cap hit. He may never reach the ceiling that was expected of him when he was drafted, but still, pretty good player. So, that's a good signing for New Jersey. Cap hits perfectly fine, less than $1 million. And, we'll see if McLeod takes that next step. He's had some good games along the way the last couple of years. It's just a matter of the consistency and being consistently in the lineup as well. Waiving news. This has also come out that Ben Bishop apparently has waived his no movement clause for the expansion draft. And how that changes things for Dallas is now they would protect Hudobin. So Hudobin gets protected. Bishop would be left out there in the expansion draft. Seattle's not taking Ben Bishop. The cap hit, the fact he missed the entire season with an injury, Seattle's not taking Ben Bishop. So that just means Dallas won't have to worry about losing Hudobin, which I don't think was going to happen anyways. I still get the feeling that from Dallas, I think Alexiak might be the best pick for Seattle. But we'll see what happens when it happens. We'll see what the protected lists look like. And for Dallas, apparently it won't include Ben Bishop. That's the only star I've heard so far that's waived the no movement clause. There are a few who are still under no movement clauses with Dallas. We'll see whether or not any of the rest of them waive as well. But Bishop waiving allows Dallas not to have to worry about losing a goaltender. And so, if they're going to keep it Hudobin and Bishop. Okie dokie. My guess is Ottinger proved last season he's worthy of a full-time job in the NHL. But that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And between now and start of next season, I'll be here to report on all this. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. The channel's growth's been intimidating. The views on the videos lately have just been incredible. Thank you guys so much for the comments, the likes, the dislikes. They all count. They all add up. And hey, all that engagement apparently appreciated by the algorithm, and it allows further promotion of the channel and whatnot. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for your support along the way, and I will talk to you again soon.